Well, now I have the opportunity to introduce our keynote speaker, Mr. Joshua Freitas. He is an award-winning memory care program developer, researcher, and author. His care training philosophies has been featured in prominent publications, including Long-Term Magazine, Healthcare Provider Magazine, Science Today Magazine, local news channels, and much more. Freitas has served as the Vice President of Program Development with Certis Senior Living, where he oversees memory care philosophies and initiatives throughout the company. Currently, Freitas is a doctoral student at California Institute of Integral Studies, where he focuses on clinical gerontology and aging of neurosciences. He also studied non-pharmacological healthcare at Lesley University, healthcare economics at Harvard University, and music education and therapy at Berklee College of Music. Freitas holds 5 certifications related to dementia care and serves on several national advocacy boards for dementia care. Please help me welcome Mr. Joshua Freitas.
First, can everybody hear me? Oh, this actually works out pretty good. So that made me sound really good, but I think it's important to share narratives of kind of how I got into this line of work, because I think it really hits home the aspect that people with dementia still have so much life left. And I hope you leave with that today. So the reason I got into this line of work is I was a music therapist and couldn't find a job, to be honest. I worked with kids with autism, and I had an opportunity to work with a lady from a symphony hall who was a pianist. And they said, oh, she has dementia, she can't play piano anymore. So I became her music therapist. Slowly I started playing for her, and what happened is she came up and told me how bad I was. Throughout that process, what I learned is that she had such a thirst to learn new music. She learned music from all over the world. It was really eye-opening. So if you leave with anything here today, it's that somebody with dementia can still learn. I'll give you actually a fact based off research is, how long does it take you and I to make or break a habit to learn something new? Does anyone know? The carrot principle, 21 days. For somebody with dementia, does anyone know the average length of time for somebody in mid-stages of dementia, how long it takes for them to learn something new? 35 days. So a perfect example is I get a lot of emails that are like, people with dementia can't learn, and that's completely false. People with dementia can still learn. I'll give you an example. I work in memory care, and we have a dining program where people start to sit in the same seats over and over. They love the repetition. Perfect example is I come down and she's sitting in my seat. Guess what happens? Get that woman out of my seat. Does she know who I am? Perfect example is that person just learned that that is their seat. So it is a myth that people with dementia can't continue to learn. Back to the story. So slowly as I got to work with her, I contacted a local symphony and asked if she could come play for a rehearsal. This was the pivotal moment for me, is when I sat in the audience with the family. It was amazing to see that she walked across the stage in this black gown, sat down and played piano with the orchestra, and you saw absolutely no dementia. What happens as a society is we look at people as people with dementia, and we start to think that they do less and less and less. I challenge you to go home and don't just make the bed for your loved one. Don't just do something for them. Let them be stimulated and tried on their own first, and then step in when needed. Perfect example is, so I work for a memory care community here, and turnover is very high in assisted living. But one thing that we started doing is actually having our residents create a resident hiring council. Everybody on that council has dementia. You come and apply to us, they review your resume, they tell you what we want in the community, and they also help with the interview process. So they actually come up, and to have that person sit across the table with you and ask questions is incredibly revealing. We actually have had people come to the community. We have a resident that gets all dolled up in his tux. He was a CEO of president of a company. And people have left thinking he was the executive director or the administrator, and he's a man in mid-stages of dementia. So it shows the power that we have when we empower people with dementia. So I wanted to start there is that people with dementia can still learn. So let me just quiz you real quick. I know you're eating. Is how long does it take for you and I to make or break a habit? 21 days. Keep that in mind. It's going to take you some time to adapt to your loved one. For your loved one that might have dementia, how long does it typically take them to make or break a habit or learn something new? 35. So you guys already learned something. Check. So from there, I got really into the field of research. I get to spend some time when I was studying osteopathic neuroscience, it sounds fancy, is really how our bones, muscles, and joints shape our brain. So, showers. You're gonna notice throughout this progression of this journey, showers are gonna become more difficult. You might have home health come in, they might be living in an assisted living. This is when you know your loved one better than any assisted living. You have a seat at the table to share what advice works. Here's what will work for them. Typically, showers become a combative area where the water turns on and they flail out, push you away. I challenge you to do this. Take a loofah, have them hold that loofah or the sponge or the towel. When the water hits them, instead of them hitting that caregiver, what happens is they squeeze that loofah. The act of squeezing is like a stress ball. It releases melatonin, decreases depression and anxiety. You're changing the neurochemistry. So now that person's actually more relaxed in the shower, and they're gonna squeeze that loofah. Plus, it's a dignified way that they can help wash themselves. So now you just took that 45-minute shower and made it 15 minutes. Those are the type of things that can really improve quality of care for those with dementia. From there, I really got to study how colors impact us, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about that towards the end. I know I only have 45 minutes, but what we're gonna talk about is what is the last color we lose the ability to see and how that impacts care and improve care quality, how to reduce falls in the bathroom by color contrast. Another challenge you're gonna notice is people with dementia, over time, sometimes they won't eat. So I'm gonna talk about what colors actually stimulate appetite to improve them eating. Perfect. I'm gonna ask you a few questions to gauge where we're gonna go from this point on, because I didn't do PowerPoints. I wanted to cater my conversation to what you guys wanted. So, I know you're all chewing, but for those of you that aren't chewing, or just take your last bite for a second, I'm gonna ask a few questions, just answer them nice and loud, okay? True or false? Men have a higher risk or females have a higher risk of Alzheimer's disease? Females, okay. How many forms of dementia or conditions that cause dementia are there? Several, good guess, good guess. Okay, we'll talk about that too. Another question is, what kind of dementia might cause hallucinations? Does anybody know? Lewy body? Okay, good. So just to jump right in there, there's over 100 conditions that can cause dementia. This is where it's gonna break down. Alzheimer's disease affects about 75% of the whole population out there. Currently, there's 5.8 million Americans. That number is gonna fourfold over the next 3 decades. Here alone in Florida, known as the silver tsunami that's coming, from 2018 to 2025, the population is gonna increase 38.5%. This is why care practices are really important. I also want to say personalized care is incredibly important. There's over 100 conditions that cause dementia, and the most common 5 to 10 forms of dementia should be treated differently. So when you're looking for places that work with your loved one or to place your loved one, your question should be is how do you work with Parkinson's? How do you work with Huntington's? How do you work with Creutzfeldt-Jacobs disease? Because they're all different. I'm going to take a second to break them down. Alzheimer's disease, which is the most common, you hear slight forgetfulness. You hear that they can't process short-term memory because their hippocampus is challenged. Okay. Let's go to the second most common form of dementia, vascular dementia. Vascular dementia is the second most common type of dementia. It's hallmarked by inconsistent symptoms. Somebody that has vascular dementia, one day, they know who you are. They're, hey, how you doing? Get that woman out of my room. Who is she? It fluctuates from day to day. The next one I'm going to spend a little bit more time on is dementia with Lewy body. Anyone in here have a loved one with Lewy body? Okay, good. So this is one that I want to spend a few minutes on. With Lewy body, the big hallmark is severe hallucinations. You want to avoid watching news. Oftentimes, if there's a mass shooting or a burning building, they will actually take that and internalize it. It can last for days. My sister was in there. I need to get out. I need to get out. Also with Lewy body is due to the peripheral vision defect that happens with Lewy body, is the color black from the kneecap down will be perceived as scary. Caregivers that wear the color black from the kneecap down, you'll see them actually resist care as they go further in their journey. So trying to use light color pants can really improve care quality. For most forms of dementia, over time, as they go through their disease process, the color black will be perceived as scary from the kneecap down. This is why so many people will go to walk into a building and they'll stop and they won't go in that building. So for first responders even, they might have to go in and help somebody, but they won't cross that black mat. That's with most forms of dementia from the kneecap down. The most important thing with dementia with Lewy body, I hope you guys take home for those of you that have loved ones with dementia with Lewy body, is they have something called a reflective gene or a mirror neuron. This means they mimic what they see. As they go on their journey, what you're going to notice is there's a housekeeper over there. They're dusting. You're going to see your loved one start mimicking what they see, even if they're not dusting. Use it to your advantage. A lot of people say, oh, that's a side effect of Lewy body. It should be, that's a side effect of Lewy body. How can we use it to improve quality of care? Here we go. If I'm going to have somebody sit, I don't have a seat. Pretend that I have a seat behind me. Somebody with Lewy body, oftentimes they'll go to sit, and this is what you see. Start to see them shake. Oftentimes caregivers will come over and pull their shoulders back, and they're sitting like this in the chair. Not good for their back. The best thing you should do is sit down beside them and say, Mr. Smith, come sit with me. If they see you sitting, they will go ahead and just sit down and sit very effortlessly. Also, for those of you that are looking for placement for your loved one,
Thank you.
You're very welcome, is advocate for your loved one. I see a lot of times people with Lewy body, because they have Parkinsonian shakes, they have a tough time eating. What happens is we put them at a table where nobody's eating at the 3 meals a day. Guess what happens? They mimic those people not eating and they don't eat their food. All it takes is to put me at a table where everybody's eating, give me a few minutes to be successful, that person will go ahead and dig in and just start eating. That makes a pretty big impact. Speaking of the shakes and tremors, it can come with more than just Parkinson's, but with Lewy body as well, Parkinsonian shakes, is they have these really cool gloves. And I share technology for just a brief second. They have these hockey pucks that go on the back of the gloves with a gyroscope. While they're shaking, they turn on and the hands stabilize. I saw a man putting together PVC piping, getting very frustrated. He was sharing that F word over and over, just trying to get it together. They put the gloves on and he could go ahead and put those PVC pipes together effortlessly. $5,000 a glove. But the good thing is that technology is now coming out and it will be more and more accessible over time. I predict in the next 5 to 10 years, technology is going to enhance care drastically. Last thing with Lewy body is if you have somebody with Lewy body at home, oftentimes you're going to see a shuffled gait where they drag their feet. Music, I know we're going to learn from a music therapist, even just singing to them. I had a gentleman that wouldn't walk unless I sang. So he was in the military, so we sang, off we go into the wild blue yonder, climbing high into the sun. And he would just go ahead and march, but he couldn't walk. As soon as I stopped singing, you got this, and then he would just start marching again. So using music, also something called a care corner. This works with many forms of dementia if they become, their gait gets shuffled off. Simply, all you want to do is take a corner in their room, and you want to leave it bare. I'll try not to set the fire alarm off, I promise. The idea is that this corner is a good support system for them. Oftentimes people will fall forward or be a little bit more dense as they go further along in their journey. This care corner actually allows them to lean back. They can help get their pants on. They can help get their shirt on in the support of leaning into this corner. So I call it a caring corner instead of just doing their care in bed, but empowering that person as much as possible to take an active stance in their care. Let's go to the next one. Frontal temporal dementia. Have you guys heard of it? FTD? Any show of hands just so? Okay, a decent amount of you. Okay, so FTD affects the frontal lobe. This is where personality and judgment is. These are the people that tell it like it is. So you'll bring them out in public. They're going to tell someone they're overweight. They're going to tell them that they don't like their hair, that they stink a little bit. That will happen. Put some tools in your tool belt. Just take an index card, a sticky note, right? Please be patient. I'm with somebody with dementia. Keep it in your back pocket. When they say something inappropriate, just slide it to that waiter, to that waitress. That can really cut down on them getting mad back and saying, what did you say to me? And having that escalate. With frontal temporal dementia too, is I see more and more of it, so I'm gonna spend a second on it. Routine is incredibly important. Montessori dementia care I've seen worked really well. That is structures, routine, templates, those work really, really well. I'm gonna share some really cool research real quick. In Japan, they had this 32 dementia, I hate the word unit, FTD unit, but little community. And they had almost no participation. Nobody came out of their rooms. What they did is they painted all their doors different colors. All of a sudden, residents started going in and out of each other's rooms and stealing each other's stuff, so that caused a whole new dynamic. But they noticed the color red, for some reason, when your frontal lobe gets affected, it stands out a little more. So what they did is they painted all of the doors red. It got the residents to come out of their rooms and participate, go back into other rooms. It was an increase in 60% of participation and engagement with one another just because they painted their doors red. Then what they did is they noticed residents wouldn't stay in bed. So they would wake up, see that red door, they would come out, and they're like, what's going on? I don't see anything. So they had to put a curtain on the inside of that door, so at night they'd pull the curtain down. But they can maintain that 60% participation just by painting the doors a different color. So it tells you a lot about color. Now, this is general for all forms of dementia. Color, I want to take a second on. White is the hardest color to see. So for those of you that have an all-white bathroom with a white door, guess what? There's been times that I've gotten calls that say, I haven't heard from my mom in 24 hours. She was stuck in the bathroom because she couldn't find her way out because the door was white, she couldn't find the handle, and the bathroom was white. So white is the hardest color to see. Spending a second on the color white, because I think a lot of us have the color white in our houses. A white toilet seat. The best investment you'll make is a $12 color contrast toilet seat in your house. Drastically reduces broken hips. So, I know it seems silly to us, but the aging eye as we age, you can't see contrast as well. You see a white toilet on white or tan tiles, guess what? There's gonna be a lot of missing, or a lot of missing when they sit. The last thing you want is so-and-so just fell next to her toilet and broke a hip, right? Color contrast toilet seat, $12, drastically reduces that. They can see when it's closed, they can see when it's open. They can also see where they're sitting, drastically reducing that fall risk. Also keep in mind, there's a small research project done in Kansas. They noticed that as your aging eye goes through this process, it can't see color contrast. White mini blinds are very hard to see through. So if you have white mini blinds, the eye can't focus to see on the other side. So some research studies actually indicate that it caused depression or anxiety for people, or that they felt more restricted to what they could do. So pulling those blinds up or using brown blinds. We actually use brown blinds, and you do see residents looking out the window because it allows their eye to focus and see what's on the other side. It's pretty cool, I think. Sticking on the theme of color, so let me quiz you before we move on. I want to make sure this stuff is sticking. Okay, ready? True or false is over 100 forms of dementia? Okay, that's like semi-confident. True or false is over 100 forms of dementia? Good. True or false, color can, by having a contrast toilet seat, you can reduce falls in the bathroom. True or false? True. Good. Okay, the most common form of dementia is? Alzheimer's disease. Good, okay. So you are learning, this is good. What is the hardest color to see? Okay, now we're gonna talk about the last color you lose the ability, I don't wanna say lose the ability, that becomes most prevalent to see. As you age, you get a yellow film over your eyes. That yellow film changes the 3 rods in your eyes, the way that your eye processes color. So it typically processes blue, green, and a pinkish color. When you put yellow over that, you get lime green, you get a green, and you get a weird pinkish color. So the color lime green stands out more. So I always say, wherever you can use that in your house can really make a difference. Even steps, I've seen green duct tape strips up the thing, reducing falls drastically. Even on a toilet flush, I know it sounds silly, I had this one family, it's like, she never remembers to flush the toilet. And I'm like, okay. What they did is they put a green flusher, and she remembered all the time. She just couldn't see where to flush the toilet. So it was as simple as just changing that color. One thing that we use that's a really great impact is we use the color lime green for uniforms. So how we came to this conclusion is I need to go to the bathroom. I'm somebody with dementia. Who do I ask in here? Over time, because it's the more prevalent color, the color green stands out for our caregivers. So we have residents that are saying, I need to go to the bathroom. Can you get me somebody in green? And it's great that they know exactly who to ask for, to cut down sundowning, to cut down behaviors. Nobody wants to have those indignified accidents, right? It doesn't have to be everyone going home and wearing green. Something that's very consistent that if you have services coming to your house, have them do something like this. Hi, my name's Josh. You can always find my name on my name badge. Doing that over and over and over and over again creates procedural learning. That resident's gonna actually learn who that person is. We just decided to use the color lime green with good success. So lime green is the last color we lose the ability to see. How many of you guys like to read? Raise your hand. Okay, guess what? You got dementia, you can't read anymore. How does it feel? Not good, right? I love seeing people with dementia read, even when their families tell me they can't. So the color green, I only know this because I'm severely dyslexic, you would never know. The color green actually keeps your eye moving forward. It's called neurological sequencing or subconscious conditioning. If you put font in the color lime green in certain sizes, you can improve reading habits for people with dementia drastically. We did something called the Certis Reading Series, where we have books that are in certain size font and certain color, and now all of a sudden we have residents starting to do their own reading groups after we were told they couldn't read anymore. It's really impactful. I'll give you the size right now. So somebody in early stages, you want to have from size 16 to 18, Arial font. You want it to be as clear as possible, lime green. For somebody in mid stages of dementia, you want to use anywhere from 20 to 24 size font. I have a gentleman I work with kind of on the side, and he loves to read the newspaper. I go to Google News every morning. I copy and paste something into a 3-page document. He'll read that document 5 times throughout the day. That's okay, because he tells me all about it. And what's great is the information is sticking, and he is reading, and it was something that, oh, you got dementia? We stopped getting the newspaper for you. That's what I heard, and I was like, no, we should keep getting the newspaper. So the color lime green. What color can be perceived as scary from the kneecap down? Black, good. So the color black can be perceived scary for most forms of dementia from the kneecap down. With that being said, black pants, black shoes, black mat, black even event. However, this was done on something called the Simmons Project. It's not scary from the kneecap up for some reason. So how this research worked, it was so crazy, but I love it. They had different color balls on a table. And they asked residents with dementia to grab one ball and put it in their basket. 90% of them grabbed the color purple first, which is weird, right? Put out purple pillowcases, purple napkins, purple spoons. Everything went missing within 24 to 48 hours, showing that they have hoarding tendencies to the color purple for some reason. The hypothesis is that they would steal gold and silver, but what actually came out of that is people with dementia don't like shiny objects. Now we see a lot of research, shiny walls aren't good, shiny floors aren't good, shiny material throughout your house isn't good. I saw this one chair in a community I used to manage years ago, and it was shiny, it had like a gloss on it, and the lady would not sit on it. She kept wiping it off thinking it was wet. So we gotta get into their reality a little bit. Anyways, so that was the ball that grabbed the most. On the other side of things was the color black. The color black was grabbed last, showing they pay the least amount of attention to it. So with that came a research project. They had 10 residents that are going to be put on antidepressants. They wouldn't get out of bed. Stepping in and doing a non-pharmacological intervention, all we did was put black sheets on those 10 beds. 8 out of those 10 residents, we did facial observation research to make sure they weren't scared. When they got up to brush their teeth, we would remove all their linens, just leave the black sheet. 8 out of those 10 residents came over and they were like, that's weird. And they went out and started socializing. Over 6 months, they made friendships where they stayed out of bed for those 6 months. After that, we went back to white sheets, and we remained for an additional 6 months, 7 out of those 10 residents staying out of bed. So all it did was changing their sheet color to get them to come out of bed, make a friendship. So color makes a huge impact. So I'm going to do a quick quiz. What is the most prevalent color that we start to see as we age? Lime green, good, good. What is the hardest color to see? White. Okay, keeping that in mind is these plates are awesome for us. For somebody with dementia, they're really bad. White is a really hard plate to eat off of. They don't see mashed potatoes. They don't see color contrast. There's more and more mounting research that shows the color red is a great color for people with dementia to eat off of. It can improve, and this is off of 2 studies, improve eating habits up to 33% just by putting it on a red plate. There is research behind how does that trigger in the brain, hitting your thalamus, making you salivate, making you want to eat more. We're not going to get into that. Just red plates work really well. Every once in a while, there's a resident that's eating too much. I'm going to be that resident. I know I am. I just want to keep eating and eating. Dark blue suppresses appetite. What we see a lot in our communities is if we have a resident eating too much, putting on a dark blue plate will suppress the appetite just enough. Because what a lot of places do is they say, oh, she eats too much. So what they do is they give you a tiny little plate with just a little bit of food. And they say, why am I getting gypped? But by putting on the blue plate, you don't have that problem. You can fill it up with the food, but just giving that subconscious trigger. So what is the hardest color to see? The color white. Good. How much time do I have? I talk a lot, so. 15 minutes? Okay, cool. Okay, I'm going to wrap up and just leave at least 10 minutes for questions because I love questions. So, true or false, can somebody with dementia still learn? Yes. I'm going to give you a tool that you should try to use as much as possible. Before I go there, there's a term. This is just so I sound smart. It's really not complex. It's called retrogenesis. And what this is, somebody with dementia, they accumulate information throughout life. They hit a point, they get a diagnosis. And in most cases, they lose that information mirror opposite that it was gained. So this will explain a few things for you. Somebody speaks 3 languages, okay? Throughout their lifespan, you get English, Spanish, and French. Get dementia, typically you forget French and you forget Spanish, you revert back to that native tongue. Most of the time, people will revert back to the first language they spoke. Another example, 3 kids. Mrs. Smith has 3 kids. She has child number 1, child number 2, and child number 3. In most cases, they forget child 3, child 2, and they revert to child 1, where they start to ask all those questions. People with dementia will learn things and mirror opposite and lose them throughout their disease process. This is where I think assisted living nationally needs to tap into this, is think of the things that make a child happy, okay? Holding hands, teddy bear, snuggling up, having conversation, surface conversation, makes children really happy. Now dignify it on somebody that's had an entire life experience that is still a person that wants to be treated with dignity. Okay? Holding hands, they might need to hold hands. Teddy bear, maybe they don't need a teddy bear. Maybe they need a fake baby they can hold on to where they feel like they're nurturing something. Comfort items are going to be your friend. So, for example, I had a resident that would not get into an ambulance unless he had his toolkit. So we had a toolkit with no tools in it. As soon as we get that toolkit, he would go right onto that first responder because he thought he was going to work, and he would come right back. So look for those comfort items as much as possible. So retrogenesis. I'm going to leave you with a few fast facts I'm just going to throw at you because I think it's important for you to change how we treat people with dementia, okay? Number 1, know your loved one's dominant side, not their dominant hand. Whatever foot they step out with first is their dominant side. So you say, hey, mom, son, daughter, spouse, my love, take a step. Whatever foot they step out with is their dominant side. Make a note of it. People with dementia will wander in the direction of their dominant side. This is incredibly important because there will become a time where your loved one will be curious and want to seek out and go out your front door. By knowing what is their dominant side, you can drastically cut down search time. I also suggest if you guys need a form for this, just shoot me an email, I'll kick it to you. A 1-page face sheet for your loved one. A picture, their dominant side, a few nicknames they go by, and a few places they might be. With that information, you could quickly give that to somebody in the state of an emergency. We're working with a lot of police stations throughout Florida right now, and even something as small as taking a piece of clothing that's not washed, ripping a piece off, putting it in a medicine tube, and just putting it in the freezer, it will last up to 3 years. I'm so sorry, I'm that one person that didn't shut my phone off. Don't let me forget that. Keep that tube. It'll last up to 3 years in the refrigerator. In case they ever wandered, many police departments have a dog that can come and that will keep their scent, and they can smell it really quick and find them. So those things can really make a huge difference. The last thing I'm sorry I'm throwing a lot at you guys now. I have like a few more minutes, right? Lighting is really important. You're gonna notice if your loved one is at home and you have an LED night light, it wakes them up, okay? Go to Amazon, it's $19 for 2, get a sleep aid night light. Red light, if it fits in the spectrum of 460, which they have them on Amazon, actually fosters melatonin production. Many times people with dementia get up to go to the bathroom, they're woken up because of all the lights, and then what happens is they wanna wander, they wanna go find out what to do. That red light will keep them sleepy, allow enough light to go to the bathroom and go right back into bed. There's a lot more, I just wanna keep throwing stuff at you. Also, for you guys to safeguard a house, because how many of you guys have people living at home with dementia? Okay, so there's a good chance of you. Here's just a few tips for you at home, okay? Circular doorknobs are really hard to use. That's good for exit doors. You don't want to trap people in. If there's ever an emergency, they could get out. Circular doorknob, due to arthritis and neuropathy, becomes hard to move. It actually shows that if you have circular doorknobs and exit doors, they're less likely to go through those exit doors. Any rooms you want people to go into, use lever doorknobs. That lever doorknob is very easy for them to get in and out of. At nighttime, illuminate areas in your house you want people to go to. So that might be the kitchen. I actually had a family, what they did is put a spotlight on the kitchen, on the refrigerator, and it drastically reduced because they woke up, they were hungry, they knew exactly where it went right back into bed. You want to illuminate, awesome, thank you. You want to illuminate areas where you want people to go to. Also, people with dementia don't like dark spaces in most cases. So minimizing the amount of light in rooms that have exit doors can drastically help you as well. And now I'm going to do my little spiel for technology. I think technology, as scary as it is for so many people, I just came from a conference where they actually have an Alexa that will manage medications. Medications comes into the house, links by Bluetooth right into your Alexa. Your Alexa, for somebody in early stages of dementia, will say, hey, Mrs. Smith, I've noticed you woke up. Don't forget your Monday pill. Will pop up in that one day and remind them until they take it out of there. There's nothing saying they actually took it, but at least it's another mechanism. Even the new Apple Watch, love it, don't own one, too expensive, the new Apple Watch is fantastic. It actually takes vital signs that can be shared with your doctor at this point. Also, for people with Parkinson's, Lewy Bodies, and Huntington's, there's predictive measurements telling them how fast they're declining. Also, the shuffle in their gait will also know if they fall and hit the ground, call first responders, or you can get alert directly to your phone. So if your mom or your sister or your brother is at home, you could actually see what's happening. Did they fall? How much movement did they have? And also it has a tracking device on it now. So it's a really cool thing. Instead of that, I hate to say this because I don't know if anyone provides them in here, but the thing goes around your neck. I feel like that screams like, I'm old. So scratch that. But an Apple Watch, I'm like, whoa, hip. So I just feel like it changes the culture quite a bit too as well. So I just want to open up. I have a few minutes, and I kept throwing stuff at you guys. So thank you guys for your time. For any questions you might have, if I can answer them. And also, just so you know, there's a chapter. If you want a really good book, I wrote a book a few years ago, but there's a much better book out there. I love it. It's called Creating Moments of Joy by Jody Brackey. I forget. It's a fantastic read for you. But you are going to get one chapter from my book that's going to be sent to you guys just to kind of help you guys navigate the journey. Question.
And I love being Oprah and pretending I'm like directing the show. So if you have a question, I'll come visit you.
Okay, so my first question is, this is the color of my nail polish, this teal. Every time I go out, people comment on this color. Is this a good color to have more of in my house?
So the color lime green is actually the pen that Dr. Leard is holding is the perfect color for the lime green. But anything in the green spectrum you'll see more of, so that definitely would stand out a little bit too as well.
All right. Anybody want me to visit?
Could you put your email address up there? Can you give us your email address?
I would be happy to.
Thank you.
So my email address is J. So, okay, I'm gonna do this. J is in job, F is in father, R is in rat, E is in elephant, I is in itch, T is in tick, A is in apple, S is in Sam, and I'll go slow, I'll repeat it.
It's his last name. It's up there.
My last name. So it's J, F, @. Certis Senior Living, and that is C as in cat, E as in elephant, R as in rat, T as in tick, U as in umbrella, S as in Sam, full word senior, full word living.com. So it's J Freitas at Certis, and then seniorliving.com.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next question.
Do patterns have anything to do with reception?
Fantastic question. So patterns do play a role. Like this wouldn't be too bad because it's all white, this rug. But when you walk into a hotel that has checkerboard pattern, you're going to see residents stepping all over it. Also, you'll see a lot of pattern on chairs or pattern on the floor becomes difficult where they'll get down on their knees and start pulling stuff up thinking stuff's on the floor. Also for you at home, if you have a couch that's all the same color, chairs that are all the same color, not the best thing, but there's great alternatives. I know you can't see this chair, but I'm just going to pull it out. So the concave of this chair is 2 different color patterns. That's really good. So what you want is you want where they put their tush, a different color than the back where they're going to put. The reason is when they look at that, they can see how far back to put their tush so they can sit comfortably, not being too quick or too far back. When you have the same color, it looks concaved. You'll see a lot of residents sit towards the end of the seat or sit way too far back and fall. So color is really important. So in there, easy alternative, get some throw pillows, put them down there, or take a blanket and throw it over the back of the couch so it's a different color. Great question, but you'll also see sometimes residents in later stages, they'll start picking stuff off their shirt if they feel like stuff's on that shirt. So, but what's good is don't limit and not have any color. I know when we designed our community and we had these architects that they were like, oh, let's do all this fabric, and it was crazy. And the next thing I know, we went to another place and like, dementia, you gotta have no color. No color, it's all brown. And I was like, what? You wanna have things that look normal. You don't want people to walk through and be like, whoa, it's sterile. You want things that feel like home too. So, great question.
Oh, okay. Coming back there.
Is that normal for people with Alzheimer's or dementia? My husband feels like he has worms crawling out of his back all the time. Is that normal?
It depends on the person. It could be a number of things. It could be a medication side effect. It could be that he's just antsy. Sometimes they'll even say something, it's called agnosia or prognosia. And what that is he might be saying there's bugs on me, but what he's really saying is I'm hungry. So what happens is his brain is not being able to communicate, I'm hungry at the second. So he's saying, I got worms all over me. You'll see stuff like that happen. What I see a lot of people be like, oh, my elbow really hurts. And what they do is they confuse body parts. But it depends. I would work with your PCP really closely and just have them do a medication evaluation and keep an eye on it. Because it could be a whole bunch of underlying issues. There's some psych things that can happen with certain types of dementia as well. So ask a PCP. But if you have my email, kick me. I'm happy to do a call and we can walk through it in more detail as well. Happy to help. Okay. Any other questions?
Gail, oh, I see a question. Coming.
What is
We
the
need
hardest color to
music.
see? See? I love this. You guys are like my prodigy students.
Thank you. I've been caring for my mom for about the last 6 years, and she was diagnosed with vascular dementia from heart condition. But as time goes on, and I'm learning more and more about all the different kinds of dementia, I see things from various forms of dementia. So is it possible that she had now, which I haven't done further diagnosing because she's 87,
Definitely.
and it doesn't make sense, but is it possible that somebody has various...
It's known as mixed dementia.
Okay.
And I'm not a clinician right now. This is just Josh giving you some information. So it is possible for people to have more than one condition of dementia. The most common form of mixed dementia is vascular and Alzheimer's together, where you see short-term memory deficits, but then you also see that inconsistency. Oftentimes you can rule that out through going, I feel like you have to have an army of healthcare providers, not just one person. I love that Dr. Lear had said, like, The one thing is everybody has a voice around the table. So going to a neuropsychologist that's looking through one lens, going to your MD or PCP looking through another lens, going to a care manager looking through another lens, I think will really fill that out for you. So yes, it is possible for someone to have more than one type of diagnosis. I also want to share medications can also cause a reversible form of dementia known as delirium. It's called the medicine cascade effect. For example, legally, I can't talk about certain medicines, but the more common one that starts with an A and the other one with an N is what happens is those can be inflammatory drugs. So there's some side effects. They work really well for some people they don't. So what happens is your enteric nervous system can become swelled, making people feel like they have to go to the bathroom, that they're always hungry, that they're uncomfortable, that there's an emptiness. So then what happens is you get an inflammatory drug and then you get another drug. Before you know it, I've had people that moved in with 40 medications and 10 or 15 of those are just for the side effect of that first medicine. So really working closely with your PCP and ask questions. It's not that you're saying, hey, I know more than you, but I read this. Can you provide some clarity? Okay, and my time's up.
Well, I think our time's up. I know there's probably other questions in your mind. It's so generous of Joshua to share his email, so we really appreciate that. I'm going to add my thanks to you, sir, for
Thank you,
wonderful
Dr.
comments, and I know everyone learned a lot.